you have a vocalist who is also one of the illest MCs ever with a gorgeous vocal ability, you have something that 99.9% of the rest of hip-hop does not have. All right, welcome back, guys. Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsor, the law offices of Schmeck, Schmeckel, and Schmeckstein. For decades... Wait, let me start.
Come on, keep schmecking.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsor, the law offices of Schmeck, Schmeckel, and Schmeckstein. For decades, the Schmecks have been suing the pants off of anybody at all. Doesn't matter if they're wrong, sue them anyway. The next time somebody looks at you sideways, say, "What the feck?" Call Schmeck.
Aw.
Welcome back to the Rap Lizards. Welcome to the Rap Lizards, guys. The only show where two Jews and a Guyanese dude talk about hip-hop. I myself am Benny. I'm joined, as always, by my compadres Dion and Gary. How you doing, guys? It's been a minute. You know,
Gary, have you left that tank? Have you left that tank? Like, what's going on?
No, I'm MF Sharkin in here. What's that?
I feel like, what's the last full episode we recorded?
Was it album?
Was it ELE2?
I think it was ELE2.
Wow.
No. We did Beats Rhymes of Life. We actually recorded Beats Rhymes of Life.
Oh,
Tribe
right.
Called Quest.
Okay.
No respect.
It's to the listeners. Thank you for tuning in. We love you. If you've gotten up to this episode, hopefully we've put out all the other episodes we haven't put out yet. We recorded so many, and we're also working schmucks who do
Schmecks.
We're schmecks. No, the schmecks are a real entity that I did not make up.
Oh shit.
But
Put a schmeck? Damn.
We got a lot. There's some shit that's got to come out before this one, but we're gonna try to step on the gas a little with editing. Sorry for being schmecks. Welcome back. If you're a first-time listener and maybe you just caught the title and it's an album you dig, our show is each episode one of us picks an album that we love. Almost always in hip hop, because that's our cross section that we have in common. We all love all forms of music, but our shared love is hip hop. And at the end of each episode, the next guy picks an episode. So at the end of our Tribe episode on Beats, Rhymes, and Life, Dion picked the Fugees album, The Score, and it wasn't a surprise because I know how much Dion loves this album. I know how much we all love this album, but it brought me back because this is not an album I go back to regularly, but every time I do, I find myself listening to it a lot, and like it brings me back to fifth grade, right? Fifth grade it came out?
Sixth grade.
1996, but wasn't that... So we were in fifth grade I think when it came out. 1996.
Probably. That's a good thing about people born in our year in 1985 is that we could always backtrack. The year, whatever year we entered that grade is the year that it was. So we entered fifth grade in 95. We entered sixth grade in 96. So if this came out, let's see if this came out in November. It came out in November. Actually, it was sixth grade. It was sixth grade. It came out in November 96.
It was sixth grade. Wow. Okay.
I think this was perfectly timed for us
February
too.
96. February.
So there you go, D. February 96. Fifth grade. I remember
it was recorded. It was recorded from June to November 95. Sorry, but guys, this is what happens when you record live. I read the Wikipedia article real quick. It was recorded June to November 95. It was released February 1996. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
You know why I remember that? There was this real schmucky kid in my fifth grade class. I was in one of those like dumb classes where like they
yeah, I know the kind.
it was like it called it a bridge class. They kind of put all the problem kids from 5th grade and 6th grade together, and they're like, deal with them. I was in that class, and there was this schmucky kid who always,
then they sent you to us? Damn.
Anyway, he would always sing Fugees, and then we connected on, because I was a big fan of Nappy Head's remix already, so like we talked about that in 5th grade. I have vivid memories. I don't remember the kid's name. I remember seeing him beat the shit out of another kid though, and being like, oh man, like this guy's not great, but he likes the Fugees. Anywho, D.
What up?
We're going to talk about this album, but did you just say that Nappy Head's remix came out before?
Yeah, man. So the Nappy Heads remix was a remix off of Blunted on Reality was their first album, and it is the album itself is a very different vibe, right? Way more kinetic, way more in line with '94 when it came out, just like just like a lot more yelling and a lot more just like inspired by like the Onyxes and the Wu-Tangs and the just like the kinetic energy of '94. And the original Nappy Heads, I don't even much care for that song, but the remix, when
that song is like from a different future time. That is from outside of time itself. That song is so different.
It's so reggae, hip hop, like such a perfect blend of reggae and hip hop. I was
gonna say, like, it did what Busta Rhymes kind of did later on, and Wyclef himself also continued to do later on. Is like someone like me who's my whole family is from Guyana, right? From the Caribbean. So like hearing Caribbean influence in hip hop and the music that I actively listened to was like a thing. So like again later on, Busta Rhymes incorporated a lot of his like Jamaican patois and everything in his rhymes, and it sounds dope. It sounds sick.
Yep.
But I remember this was like one of the first times I actually heard it in like a mainstream song. I'm like, yo, what is this? Like, Mona Lisa, could I get a date on Friday? And it's like, yo, this is fucking sick. And then it busts into some dope fucking verses too. So so that was like the world's introduction. Like, was the remix for Nappy Heads on the back of the album just like these, like the way the way the score ends with these remixes? Do you remember, or did it come out as a single like way later?
I want to be completely honest. I never owned the first album.
Me neither.
So I don't think so though. This was at the time where remix didn't necessarily. This one was very similar. They re-recorded. I really believe the Nappy Heads is completely re-recorded. Like their verses, it's mostly the same lyrics, if not entirely, but there's a different cadence and a different approach to the song. I remember Scenario Remix is just they shouldn't have even called it the Scenario Remix. They should have called it a different title, Scenario Part 2 or something like that. There was nothing.
1990.
We present the fabulous. What does? Yeah. At any rate, but this was a complete switch up of vibes, and I just remember just falling in love with that song. The reason I bring that up, sorry, D, I'm gonna throw it over to you in a second, but Nappy Head's remix to me seems like a prelude to the vibe on the score, because, like I said, Blunted on Reality is cool, it's dope. Not my favorite album in the world. It's kind of wild and a little bit messy and all over the place. Nappy Head's remix introduced like that, just those chord, that mellow, low key. So like that, those like low key. I'm not a musician, but it almost seems like minor tones. Mellow vibe. That was the building blocks underneath in the music of the score, which makes it timeless, in my opinion. It makes it brings me back to 96, yes, but it also ages so well because of how simple yet elegant and just vibey the music is. You know what I mean? It's such a vibe on this album. So D,
from start to finish,
100%. Exactly. It's got a mood. It's a mood music. You know what I mean? So talk to me, D. I know just because we've known each other for so long how much this album means to you, but we've never recorded ourselves talking about it. So let's get into it, man.
I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Something I didn't really think about before. There's definitely an elegance to this album, and it's not just like there's an obvious reason why there's a bit of elegance, and that is Miss Lauryn Hill. Like you can't there's a certain grace and elegance to her in herself that she's obviously gonna bring and make everything else around her the same. But also again the production, like it's fluid. It's like it's melodic. And again, like it's just her like just butter silk voice just added to everything. It just kind of made this a perfect album. I've always regarded this as one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time, which to me then makes it one of the greatest albums of all time. It happened to be the very first. It's so good. It happened to be the first, at least in the first like batch of CDs I ever owned. And I remember, and it's funny. I think there's a reason why I picked this album after doing the last one we did, Beats Rise in Life, because I wanted to get Beats Rise in Life as part of that batch. I forget. I think it was Mr. Smith by LL. I think
was that the '95 album?
That with Hey Lover and Doing It. And I forget what the other album was, but I wanted to get Beats Rise in Life, but I think it was The Wiz? The Wiz was sold out. The one across the street from King's Plaza.
Wait, no, by that point they were not The Wiz. They were Nobody Beats The Wiz.
Nobody beats The Wiz.
They went bankrupt already.
Yeah, it's true. And it was exactly the other location, the one that had the CDs, not the one that sold blenders.
Wait, hold up. Pausing here for a second, Dion. I'm so sorry. But it was called The Wiz, and then it went bankrupt, and then they changed their name after bankruptcy to Nobody Beats The Wiz, even though they got beat.
That's like when Kmart became Big Kmart.
Big
Same shit. Yeah, man. Anyway, they got beat, and then they're like, nobody beats us.
Except for the lawyers. But anyway, so they're out of Beats Rise to Life. So I think I was either gonna get 3 or 4, whatever. Long story short, I ended up getting the score, and it was one of the first albums I got. And I don't know if part of it is because it was like a bias of me having like it holding a special place in my heart as being one of my favorites. I certainly don't hold Mrs. Smith to that regard. I enjoyed the album, but I haven't listened to it in years. But there's something about this that, like you said, Ben, like you just keep coming back to. It just draws you in. Again, it's one of those perfect albums. Like there's not a weak spot on this album. I don't think. Even having Praz,
there is a weak spot.
Even having Praz as a third rapper. That's
the weak spot.
But
I disagree. By the way,
this is something that we will get into, and we will actually get into this. We're not going to just shelve this off because this is actually an important part about Praz, because I have some things to say about him. Some good and some not so good things. But overall. Yeah, it was a fun listen. Again, once again, just like with all the other albums doing this show, I learned a lot. For example, I learned that they, for the most part, produce their own shit. I didn't realize that.
Wyclef, yeah, man.
Yeah. Obviously I knew Wyclef is, he's one of the big producers in the game. It's just one of those things I didn't think about. It was like, oh no, they're busy like doing the instruments and the vocals and everything like that. Of course they didn't have time to produce. I'm like, oh no, these were hungry kids. They were at the time, they were like, their early 20s. I actually found out that Blunt on Reality, as we're talking about, it wasn't very successful. There's a reason why like we're talking about the score, not Blunt on Reality, and why we said none of us really said we really loved it that much. But Rough House, the company they're on, decided to just basically give him another chance. They gave him an advance of $135,000, which Wyclef then used to build a studio in his uncle's basement in Jersey. That was what Booga Basement is. That's what it is. And other things have recorded in there since, but that's basically what they did. So they didn't blow the money. They actually were smart about it, and it turned like look what happened. Look what happened with that investment. They turned out one of the biggest, the best classic hip hop albums of all time.
They really revamped their style. Like it is a stark contrast in terms of style from first album to second, for sure. And they made all the right moves. Gary, gotta ask. So like, I know what it was like for me hearing this in 5th grade. I know what it was like for Dion, the impact it had in 1996. I know your experience with music and popular culture was a little different than ours. Just different life experiences. when your mind started to be turned on to hip hop and all different. I know we had different fifth grades. We'll put it that way. Mm-hmm. So, do you remember like the wave and the just the massive movement that like the Fugees were when this shit dropped?
You know, this is one of those rare points of intersection between like music heads and people who are just kind of tangent to that or are just aware of pop culture, because the songs on this album went like, I forget what the rating was per record company speak, but it was like kryptonite or something. Like they went into some like super duper platinum mode. So all of the most, like at least 2 or 3 songs from the album were like widely known by people.
So you
who
remember
just
No
to the
Woman,
radio.
No Cry. You remember course. Killing Him Too Softly. You remember Ready or Not. I'm guessing.
And those songs were so good, you know, even without even getting deeper, they were so good to anybody listening that you could hear them on the radio for a week straight or a month straight, you know, and like you barely get tired of it because they're just great songs. But I didn't get into the rest of the album and listen to it straight through and really think about it in this way, I think really until a couple of weeks ago. Really? Even, you know, knowing all of the songs, I've listened to it straight through, but you know, just kind of thinking about who these musicians were and what made this album so special. Like, why is this just like such a diamond in the rough of like what humans can create? This is something really special. You know, I think that at this time with this group of people who are really close, right? It's just a trio. Essentially, right, and I think you should count Praz as part of that trio of creative people.
No. Okay, let's not throw full disrespect to them. Praz is absolutely a part of the Fugees. We're not discounting his membership.
In the sense that, like, what I mean is,
absolutely.
like, he was more than a producer in the set, and like a, you know, somebody who touched the music. Let's say I like Puff Daddy from Puff Daddy and the Fam, right? But Praz, I think, was more than that for the Fugees. I think he was more of a creative musician besides being the money guy. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, just hearing it straight through was interesting, and it made me think these guys were tapped into some kind of God frequency signal, right? That allowed them to create music like that, like they really mean it. And having done that album previously, and maybe that like little bit of interim work, they have like really hit their stride. It's almost like tuning a guitar or something, or getting an orchestra, or like a you know, fucking football team. I don't know about football, but like getting a team to play together, you know, the second time after that first kind of experience, they all of a sudden know how to use each other's strengths, and they're just like, if they were inspired, and they were, those things coalesce to create this album. I didn't realize how special that was until listening to it these past couple of weeks.
Hell yeah, Gary. Hell yeah. There was a unified, connected, universal inspiration. That's what I like. They were all tuned into the same frequency and had the same mission statement. Whether or not, like, I have a feeling. I did not do much research besides my, you know, with my ears and the album. But I have a feeling that's because Wyclef came into his own as a producer and maybe took the reins a little more, and maybe his vision was kind of like a little more. He took the producer's role a little more seriously, and it, you know, his visions were actualized, and they like had faith in it. But there was this unified vibe. This is not like 3 MCs trying to top each other. That's what I really love about this album. It is a band. It is a group. It is a, you know, lending your strengths for the greater good type of album. So 100%, I think they were all tuned into the same frequency.
That was another thing, Benny. The fact that they were like, you know, they're hearing that on the radio. I don't know if they're all vocalists, right? I don't know if anybody's playing any instruments, but then just, you know, watching a couple of videos and interviews from when they were making the music or from right afterwards, like Wyclef and Lauryn Hill, these are some serious musicians. These are like music hall kids to the max.
Yeah.
You know,
they're music nerds. They're music nerds.
Exactly. Like, big time music nerds. They're sitting there with like guitars and acoustic instruments and getting the sound figured out, and it comes through in the way they put out the music. It's like the Roots in that sense, and that's also really freaking cool.
Wyclef's guitar playing ability and musical arranger skills really elevate the craft, right? It's not just samples, and it's not just a guy with an MPC, even though some of the greatest albums ever made were entirely sample, but Wyclef's musical arranger's mind and instrumentation ability elevated this music and kind of lended itself to just making the vibe be the vibe the whole way through, whereas when it's an entirely sampled album, that's a much harder thing to accomplish, like keeping the vibe, changing the melodies, changing the arrangements, changing the dynamics of each song, yes, but keeping the vibe consistent. That's an accomplishment in hip hop, in my opinion.
Any you sample, you said you think you thought it wasn't that sample heavy.
It
is.
No, I think it's very sample heavy, but I also think they used instruments to.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
To accentuate, similarly to how Outkast did on ATLians, when we talked about how there was always, there was live bass, and stuff like that.
And Tyler's music, right? Tyler, he gets started with his music. It's Tyler at a piano. It turns into whatever it turns into, but that's where they get started. That's how serious musicians get down to work, man. And so in this exact genre of music.
100%, man. 100%. And
well, hold on. Let's talk samples for a second.
Let's do it.
So I know we usually get into this later, but
let's talk.
Pras, I gotta say, I don't know a lot about Pras, but from some things make me really identify with Pras. Really identify with the guy. Like, I have to say,
let's hear it.
Like, we might, I don't know, it'd be complimenting to myself too much to say that we share a kind of energy or philosophy, but he had, they had, like, as you said, D, they did this album on a shoestring kind of budget, and they had to make do with what they had. They had magic, right? And they had each other as the resource, and they had not a whole lot else. And there was this interview, I think it was a Vlad TV interview, where Pras is talking about, his sampling work, and they were, I think, after releasing the album and it was so popular, they were sued by Enya because they had sampled an Enya song for Ready or Not without.
However, no, I was gonna say, wait, no, I'll let you finish. I'm not sure if you know the end of that story, but go on.
Well, I mean, what happened is, here's what I do know. They had settled, and they didn't realize, or Pras did not dream that the album would be so popular as to be heard around the world by people in Ireland or Scotland or something, which is where it was heard by.
Which is probably eye opening for them too. It was probably like a bittersweet moment. It's like, oh shit.
Oh, totally, shit. For sure. And they had the resources to settle it, and he had a very mature outlook. He's like, oh yeah, that was my call. That was my bad. It was my decision. Didn't think it would. It was like almost like a. Do the thing and apologize for it later if you get caught. That's exactly his attitude, and it was the right move because he needed to channel that magic and do it quickly, right? They needed to produce a piece of work, and he did.
Better to beg for forgiveness and ask for permission. Exactly. So you're talking about for Ready or Not, Gary. And it was the sample wasn't, and it was a 1987 Enya song called Bodacia. And what happened is, Enya and her team were preparing to sue them. This is actually something that I don't think I've ever heard of in, like, especially from like a legal standpoint. Her and her team were preparing to sue for infringement until she actually gave the album a listen. She literally just gave it a listen, and when she realized that they weren't gangster rappers, she gave them a pass. That's true. That is true. I've never heard of that happening before. I did that's very nice of her.
I was about to say, like, that's dope of her. Like, she heard the album and she loved it, so she kept it. But it's not that she loved it; it's that they weren't gangster rappers. That's
like lame. Whatever the reason, that's fair. But whatever the reason, we ended up keeping the sample and we got Ready or Not, a great song. So whatever, like
that song. I remember there's some songs that just, like, I remember being in my mom's car, her driving me places and hearing that shit on the radio. The one thing the Fugees have and Dion alluded to it, or even said it earlier, when you have a vocalist who is also one of the illest MCs ever, and with a gorgeous vocal ability in singing, you have something that 99.9% of the rest of hip hop does not have. You know what I mean? Like, Lauren is such a queen.
Her own almost.
Like just in the few projects that she's been a part of. Like I don't really know what the deal is with her. Again, I don't follow drama, so like I don't know why she's been out of the game for so long, or at least very much not involved in popular culture after the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I don't know.
Actually, a reason she actually talked about this like a week ago. Believe it or not.
Oh, dude, I heard something. I didn't hear this interview. I guess I could share it after this, Ben.
Yeah, for sure. But all I'm saying is their use of melody, like their understanding of melody, and their secret weapon, or maybe not so secret, just their weapon, Lauryn Hill, makes a song like Ready or Not, right? Like it would just be a dope, vibey rap song, but those choruses with her harmonizing with herself, right? I'm gonna find that's both. That's her harmonizing with herself.
Yeah,
and it's just angelic. You know what I mean? And it creates just this other tonal and emotional angle that the great majority of hip hop doesn't have. And it's
same song, another example.
Yeah.
Praz's verse, right? Ready or Not, refugees taking over, and then that harmonization, Buffalo Soldier, dreadlock Rasta. That sounds just magical. And the fact that she is, she has bars and she's a rapper, she understood how to make that sound good.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. And then on Lauryn, Ben, you hit it too about the emotion. I don't know if either of you realized. I actually didn't realize this either until doing my research. But apparently, Wyclef and Lauryn had a thing at the time. I actually didn't. I didn't know that. Did not know while Clef was married to another woman. So at the time of them recording this album, they were going through their own personal shit with each other.
That's some Fleetwood Mac shit.
Exactly, and exactly. A quote from Wyclef about recording Ready or Not. He goes, "When we finished the final recording, Lauryn cried during one vocal take. The version you hear in the record is the one where she cried because there was none more honest. She and I were going through our shit, and that song was her performance says more than I could ever put down here on this page." Damn. So that hook that you're hearing, Lauryn, that she's belting it, tears flowing because of her like sort of shit and heartbreak she's going through with the person next to her.
Which song is that?
Ready or Not.
Oh, so that take. That that emotion is raw, from a very real raw place. Wow. I did not know that. I like when Dion does the research because I don't fucking have to, and it's always better when you.
I got more, baby. I got more. I got some other shit that's gonna blow your mind later.
Yo, Praz's verses, guys. I have to say.
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about that.
Right, it's an awesome.
Let's get the Praz
on the 12th
discussion
hour,
out of the
by
way.
In my bomber, crews run for cover. Now they're under, pushing up flowers. I mean, that's a cool verse, and his voice is cool. What's not to like?
You know what it is, Gary? Okay, yeah, Ben. I'll let you.
Let me start it because I probably have the most haterade in me on this one.
100% do.
100%. But I will say, right? I used to feel way more judgmental of him than I do now. I've grown up, right? My revelation while we've been listening to this album before we record this has been you could make an incredible musical album with rapping on it, and that rapping doesn't have to be breathtaking. It could just be one of the instruments. And that's what I've come to realize about Praz is he's never blown my mind. I've never heard a Praz verse where I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, that's dope. Or that metaphor or that line or that cadence or that flow. He is so on the nose and so like that's all his verses to me, just like very basic delivery and little to no complexity. His art is his voice, and his art or his accomplishment to the his contribution to the art is his vocal texture and the mood that brings. So for that, I say it's not a weak spot. He's just not a dope MC. He's not.
He's not saying anything that's like super. He's rapping along the theme and he's doing a good job at it, and it sounds really good and it feels good, right? And the vibe is correct, and it fits well with this album.
Right? Can I just share something very funny? Sorry.
I got
on the Praz tip, right? So like, you know how like fan edits of movies, like there's this
I know you're gonna say.
There's this like a Star Wars movement. There's the prequels, the anti-cheese edit, and they'll like they like take the racist Chinese voices of the aliens and make them into alien voices. They basically cut out every scene with Jar Jar because it's a completely unnecessary to further the story. Great. It's called the anti-cheese edits. I don't know if they're still on YouTube. They used to be. Anyway, somebody did that with this album and just removed Praz.
It's messed up. It's fucked up. How'd it sound?
It's fucked up.
Dope.
How'd it sound?
It was fine. That's the thing, right? That's the one thing. And I hope nobody hears me saying like Praz shouldn't have been on this album. That's not true. I think his voice and his bars are just as much a part of the album as anything else, and they should be there. And they're not. None of it's like, oh, that was bad. None of it's unfortunate to listen to. He's never offbeat. If he was offbeat and his lyrics were corny, right? If he was like a bad rapper, then I'd say he's like Jar Jar. But he's not like Jar Jar Binks.
No,
he's like Admiral Akbar. You know, he's there.
Yeah.
He's dope. He's playing his part.
He serves a role.
He serves a role.
He knows when it's a trap, but it's too late. Look, man, it's trap. Fucking. The thing about this song, "Ready or Not," before we completely move off of it, have you guys seen the video for "Ready or Not"?
Yeah, of course. It was a precursor to blockbuster fucking music videos. You know that?
So
in hip hop,
it was, and I have to say, I blame Praz for that. Okay, there's no reason for them to have been in camouflage gear in speedboats with helicopters in this video. What the hell?
No, but why not?
Why not? Because it's unnecessary and expensive and militant.
Gary, you're talking about hip hop in the mid-90s.
That was unnecessary and expensive. And is the definition of a hip hop video.
I blame it on Praz because this video set the trend off.
You're not
wrong.
Really, and you know that was a Praz decision. That wasn't a Lauryn Hill decision. That wasn't a Wyclef decision.
It was a precursor to the Hypnotize video and all the shiny suit videos of Puffy. Like that's another thing I kind of realized or discovered during my research here. I remember the video being. All I remember from the video was that it took place in a submarine. I forgot about the whole heist thing and everything. And I watched the video last week, and all these memories came back. I'm like, oh right, it was a huge blockbuster video. And then I looked, and yeah, it was the thing that kind of kicked off all those other like movie 16:9 letter frame like movie style music videos. Funny enough, Fugees of all fucking groups, Fugees were the ones that kicked that off. Believe it or not.
Made no sense. Made no sense in the context of this album. None.
And then I would imagine soon after was the Busta video, right? That one really was like, okay, now you have to get Hype Williams and you have to spend $1 million.
You have to get elephants. Yeah,
Busta fucked up the game in that, or maybe not fucked it up, but he made everyone like, oh shit, now I got to spend $1 million on my video.
It's like it happens in sports. It happens in sports. Like once that wide receiver in 1 year like gets an extra $2 million more than the last one the previous years, now all the wide receivers have to get that amount. It's the same thing. It works the same way. Once someone sets a standard, you kind of can't go back, and I get it. I did want to stick with Praz for a little bit longer. So here's my thing. Here's my two things with Praz as to why I think he's valuable. It's the intros is the main thing. All of his intros to his verses, almost all of them, are fucking amazing. Like his verses themselves are only like, I don't think he has a verse that's more than 8 or 10 bars. I really don't. I think they're very short, and they usually end kind of weak, except for one, and I'm gonna get to that in just a second. But like even like, all right, so far on how many mics? Too many MCs, not enough mics. Exit your show like I exit the turnpike. Dyson dynamite like Dolomite. Double D's been like I don't Dick Van Dyke. that shit doesn't make any sense, but it sounds fucking cool, man. Like,
That's right.
Like the way, like Ben, I know he's on, like you're right, he's on in pocket, like perfect, like that's like the whole thing, but like somehow like he makes it work, like his inflections and the way he says it, like the way he delivers, his delivery is great. Yeah, exactly. Let's see, we got Zealous. He comes in. I compress sound sets with my rap DBX, then drop vocals on my 4, 5, 6 amp pecs. Bring terror to the shop of horror. As she cries me or more, the phantom dies in the opera. See, that's an example of one that ends kind of weak. Starts off strong.
But you know what? I kind of like that. That's one.
I enjoy that too. With me. I like that it's unpredictable. It's unpredictable, man. It's like not entirely predictable, even though he does keep, as you said, Benny, like, keeps it pretty basic, but like that flow is unpredictable. He thought about, all right, here's what would sound cool over this music, and he did that, which makes him a really strong musician, in my opinion.
There is one set of sort of deep bars that he has that it ends the Beast, which again, Beast is one of those songs. Like, I think every one of these songs in this album I can say are one of my favorites. So I can't even say that, but just the way that ends is a line that always kind of stuck with me, just as a kid, growing up in Brooklyn. He goes, "Hey yo, should I slow down? Nah, kid, go faster. Just because they got a badge, they could still be imposters. Probable claws got flaws like dirty drawers. Meet me at the corner store so we can start the street wars." That's, I don't care who you are. Those are dope fucking lines. For Praz or for whatever, like, that is a dope set of fucking bars. Like, the probable cause got flaws like dirty drawers. Like, that's just like, yeah, I know. I know dealing with the cops, of course.
Look, it's just because you're in the background is Lauryn Hill and Wyclef, who are like, tapped into God frequency, right? But I think that if imagine being in that setup studio in in a basement with either of those two people as the third. They're like, you've got Praz, who's like probably going a mile a minute, fuming with like schemes and creativity. You've got Wyclef, who's like just in some kind of tree wizard trance throughout the whole process, and this kind of creative output is just flowing through him. And Lauryn Hill, who I think is in a similar state, but like in her own way. That is a powerful creative place to be, and I think if it was anybody else, I don't know that they would have stood up on the screen, so to speak, beside Al Pacino and Robert De Niro.
Right.
It took somebody like Praz. If there was put like Axl Rose in that room or something, some other crazy like outsized personality at the height of their creativity and mania, the thing would explode.
You're right, Gary. I think if it's a 3MC group and the two other personalities are Lauryn Hill and Wyclef, you're probably not. It wouldn't serve the music to put in another beast, another, what do you call another like ninja assassin on the mic,
right. Like Busta Rhymes or something. Imagine that as to complete
it wouldn't work.
Instead of Praz, wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work. It works well.
It's worked before. Like look at Slaughterhouse or any of these like super groups that have... But here's my, this vibe is a very musical vibe. Okay. Yeah,
if you put, you know what I mean? Like, Praz is just such a good. I think the fact that he gets in and gets out. It's not these long 16, 24 bar verses where you're going, okay, Praz,
right.
Wrap it up.
He's not that musical
kid. He gets out. He plays his position, and I think that's
he's a lobby kid.
It makes lobby it work. Kid. Well, I'm a lobby kid, so no, I'm just kidding. So, you guys are right? So, and that brings me back to my revelation was there's nothing wrong with his place on the album. I think he serves the album well, right? So, no hate. Just saying, like, I also understand why when you're in a group with Lauryn Hill and Wyclef, why you might get made fun of or to a degree hated on, because he's not in their lane or in their world of vocal.
No,
not vocal, but MC lyricist talent. Yeah. My favorite song on this album, there's a standout for me. And I love all these songs. I love this album so much. For me, it's Zealots.
Yes. Yeah.
the flamingos sample, right? I Only Have Eyes for You, which already was one of my favorite songs. Like as a kid, it was in A Bronx Tale. You know the beginning of A Bronx Tale. I only have eyes for you. It's such a dope love song, and I love it. It's already like it's a haunting vibe on its own, just that original. But that use of just the like so whatever, like that use of just that as the loop, and then them kind of singing their intro, or at least Lauren and Wyclef singing before they rap. Another MC loses life tonight. Oh man, the vibe on that is haunting.
You just check your arm for goosebumps?
Yeah,
I did too.
I just did. You know, it's like haunting. And then once they're done singing, the boom bap beat comes in and they start flexing.
It gives it air for the singing, right? Like it just sort of like lets it float a little bit, and then it brings you right back down with the drums, and like, all right, no, now we're back to MCing. Yeah, you're right.
Such a well produced and thought out song, and then Lauren, you know, because she sings it like the lyrics to the song is "My love is a kind of blind love," you know, I don't love anything but you, and she, you know, my rhymes are the kind of fly rhymes. You know what I mean? Like she
didn't know that.
She Gary, check out the song. I Only Have Eyes.
It's a great like what's like the 50s, right?
Doo-wop.
Yeah, 50s, 60s maybe. Yeah.
The
Flamingos. I'm pretty sure it was in Goodfellas as well. Almost positive it was in Goodfellas too.
I know it's
whatever.
Like this in the corner scene
100%
of Bronx Tale.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Anyway, really great song, and like Lauren just slays that verse. The vibe on that song is so special, and I would say that that's the one song, or not maybe the one song that's on this album that I don't know if that vibe has ever been replicated before or since. Like that was like a singular haunting type of song, and I've never heard a song sound like that ever again. It's just such a special song to me. You know, the rest of the album, of course, they're so good and they stand out because it's, you know, Wyclef and Lauren, but there is a 96 vibe to it. But that song feels like it's out of time. You know what I mean?
Interesting. I never really looked at it like that. Like it's one of my favorites. It's definitely a standout to me. It sounds like for you it's like the standout. I have a few other standouts as well, but that's interesting. I'm not arguing with anything you're saying. Everything
if you had to choose one, Dion, if you had to choose one, what is the standout?
Pick one.
If I had to pick one,
currently,
it would probably. I mean, it's one of those things that kind of fluctuates. It'd probably be the Mask.
Out of your current listen, it's the Mask.
It might be the Mask. It might be the Mask. Has always been one of my top three. Let's put it this way. I think for me, my favorites on this album would be like the Mask, Cowboys. I always loved Zealots. I always loved. Those. What?
Guys, how many mics is dope too? That is my favorite song on this album right now.
I think it's like this. Gary, can I predict real quick?
Go for it.
So like, I know you very well, right? I know the shit you love. You love a beat that you can hum along and beatbox to.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, this is perfect, Gary.
And this is such a Gary being able to beatbox. Just like it's such a thumpy boom bap. You know, just like. It is 96. You know what I mean? Like that sound is so 1996. You would hear that sound possibly on Busta's first album. You would hear that sound on a Tribe album.
That sound, I can't even think of it as 90. Like it is a 96 thing, and you're right, Ben, and you know music. But I think of it as like if like in the future, let's say I live to be 100 years old in 2085, 6, whatever, somebody comes to my gravestone, okay? And they're like, oh shit, how do you live? And then this gravestone is just playing this fucking beat. I think it's so good. Yeah, I think it's so good. Anybody visiting, you got to hear this song. But no, what stood out to me about this song was Lauryn Hill, man. I think it clicked for me. I always knew, Lauryn Hill, known to be an amazing musician. I really loved her on that song, Killing Me Softly, right? Listening to this, and just seeing her bars, lyrics, and her flow. I love her verses on this album. And really, just like light bulb went off, and I thought she might be one of the best musicians to ever make music in this way. This is like she is one of my favorite rappers, and
one of the illest
that
ever.
way. Like she says at the end, like this is just grabbing pieces of her verses, right? MCs make me vomit. I get controversial. Freak your style with no rehearsal. Au contraire, mon frère, don't you even go there. Me without a mic is like a beat without a snare. That's so.
Yeah,
cool.
hold on. I'll continue because I actually have those written down because I think that part is my favorite. She goes, "Au contraire, mon frère, don't you even go there. Me without a mic is like a beat without a snare. I dare to tear into your ego. We go way back like some ganja and Palico or Calico vision. My rhymes make incisions of your anatomy, and I'll back this with Deuteronomy or Leviticus. God made this word. You can't get with this. Sweet like licorice, dangerous like syphilis." Yo, come on, man. Come on, man.
Yo, that's
she's one of those like yo.
She's one of the illest ever, right? Like I don't want obviously yes, one of the illest females ever, but that
beyond
in itself isn't enough. She's one of the illest ever.
Exactly. Fuck that. I refuse to put limitations on
right.
That. Like
it would be absolutely silly to, especially given this very potent example. I mean, we just spent the last couple of days mourning MF Doom before recording this, and I was just thinking about it in that context, and I think she's probably as strong in the force as MF Doom was. I think that she's one of his few peers, right? If not exceeding in different ways.
It's not a critique, but my only addendum to that statement is just that her output is so limited.
Yeah,
it's a problem.
That in the same way that how dearly I hold Biggie in my heart, he's not in the top 5 for me, and he's not in that Doom class for me, because it's a very unfortunate and completely 100 million times not his fault, but he only put out 2 albums. R.I.P. to one of the illest ever. But Lauryn's career was so short, and she was dope on Blunted on Reality, but it's a hard album to listen to, honestly. I don't love that album. So you got the score and you got the miseducation and then other things here and there. But those 2 are enough to be like, yo, she's one of the illest ever. You know what I mean? So it's not that I'm saying she's not. She is. She was tuned at this point. She was tuned in to a Doom level of inspiration. I agree with you, Gary. I'm sorry that I had to be so opinionated.
But hers was somewhat of a solar flare, and I think with somebody like
solar
Doom or somebody
flare,
who's prolific for decades, they're tapped into something a little bit different, right? Yeah. But I think she has shown obviously with her work that she has similar kinds of potential and she has similar kinds of power and intuition with her music. It's cool.
Talent. Yeah.
It's I mean, this was like a very refined talent. We just didn't have a lot more of it. That's all. Yeah. You know.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. What who are you guys' some of you guys' other favorite female MCs? I know we just said I'm not trying to limit her listing or whatever. But just
a lot of my favorite musicians sing, right, and not many of them MC in the way that Lauryn Hill MCs, right?
I'm talking strictly MCing, Gary. Like I'm saying forget the singing. I'm just saying straight up MCing. Like who just curious. I got some.
I got a few.
A genre that connects to this, I have one that I really love, besides Fiona Apple, of course. But I'm thinking, I really like Erykah Badu's music in this genre, but she doesn't MC the same way that Lauryn Hill MCs.
No, she's not an MC. She's a wonderful, extremely talented singer.
Artist.
You know what I mean? Artist.
Love Badu.
For me, I love Missy. I love her music. I think Missy Elliott's just catalog is so dope. I love No Name. She's
I don't know much about No Name.
A newer
I know
artist.
who she is, but I don't know much about her.
Gary, I'm telling you, man. She's she sings, she raps, she's got such a dope vibe. She's like in that camp of like Chance the Rapper. I think she's from Chicago.
I think so. She did Jesus and Miro a few months ago, I remember, but I never got a chance to listen to her work. Yeah, I want to check her out.
Check her out. She's fire. And very vibey too. Like similar to this album, there's a vibe to her music. I really, really like her. Jean Grey, I think, is a phenomenal MC.
Jean Grey's dope.
And there's plenty more, but those are like some of my favorite female MCs. Also, you know who I fucking love? You know, it's not like I don't put her shit on, but when my wife does, I love it. Is Lizzo? I think she's fire.
Lizzo's dope, but she's also a category of like the. She's like more of a singer. She does some MCing, but she's more of a singer. She's beautiful voice, beautiful voice.
Lizzo can do both.
MCs.
I think she's doing both of it.
Yeah, she spits. You know, she sings and she sings a lot, but she could spit. You know what I mean?
She has excellent verses.
Interesting. I got I think Lauryn Hill is top of my list. I think she always. It's funny. I went back on like when I made like my top 50 rappers. Lauryn Hill was the highest female rapper on my list. I think after re-listening and deep diving this album, I think I may move her up even higher than she was. But I also had on that list alone, I think the only others that I had on that list for me were Foxy and MC Light.
Oh, Foxy and MC Light are dope. But
Foxy
Brown, man.
Foxy Brown, oh my God, she had bars. Yo, she had bars.
Was dope. For
like
sure.
She's Brooklyn. She's so Brooklyn. Like, oh my God, it's a shame.
Man, we got to do that Firm album, man. That Firm album gets such hate, and it was such a flop. But man, think of like it's not as bad as people. It was dope. I thought AZ,
who says it's bad?
Foxy
Whoever
Brown.
said it was bad?
So, a lot of people.
People shit on it.
Yeah, it was a flop and a half.
Flop is different than people thinking it was terrible. Like
it's not highly regarded. It's not a highly regarded album for sure.
I remember. I thought I remember.
Did you guys realize that Rod Digger was on this album?
Yeah. Of course I did. And Gary, we're gonna get right to that. This is a good transition.
We'll
get to Cowboys. I just want to finish a few other at least like honorable mentions. Just people like some other female MCs. I think Lil Kim's got to be up there. I think for her part in just in hip hop history, for sure. Jean Grey, we just mentioned. Queen Latifah is one of the only other people I think that's in this, even in the category of Lauryn Hill of like, and I don't sorry, we just sort of talked about like Lizzo and she could be in that category too. Missy to a degree, but Queen Latifah, beautiful voice and pioneering MC like with around the time of MC Light, obviously. Actually, no, well, a little bit later on. But yeah, she really talented, really super talented. Dope bars.
She was in Native Tongue.
She was Native Tongue. She was Native Tongue, exactly. Remy Ma is fucking dope. If you ever give her Young M.A. Young. JJ Fad, who we've talked about before, Supersonic. The first group signed to Ruthless. It was not NWA. Eazy-E signed JJ Fad as the first actual group to Ruthless Records. And then Salt and Pepper, Roxanne Shante, and Trina. And Trina I have not because of her talent, but just because of what she did for the Dirty South and just for like the don't give a fuck attitude of women rapping. Like you had like Lil Kim was a pioneer at her time, but like Trina and like Kaya opened the door to like Cardi B and Nicki like actually being like, you know what, I don't give a fuck what you think. Yeah, I'm sexual and I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna rap about it. What the fuck do you like? What do you care? So for that I always give Trina credit. Like she's not the most talented, but I give her all the credit in the world for that shit.
Can I add something to that? Mm-hmm. So those people, I'm so glad you mentioned them. Like all dope, right? And I'm gonna try to bring it back to Lauren here. I think I love the fact that Lauren established herself as just pure talent, and her lyrics and her art was never about shock value. Whereas, yes, these people like Trina and like Lil Kim, like Nicki Minaj, like Cardi, like right, a great deal of their appeal is being so openly sexual.
Sure.
And with that, some of it is controversy, some of it is just appealing to just people's sexual minds. Right?
Although I would argue Nikki that I think Nikki in particular, actually, she does that, but she also I think has bars. Not more than Cardi
Nikki's
B.
got bars.
Cardi does too, but Nikki also. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I think like the first thing you think of.
What I'm saying is, yes, it is a beautiful thing to like not be to like stand for feminism in that way. Mm-hmm. Like I could be sexual too. But I'd also argue that those sexual things are some of the reason their songs became so famous, whereas Lauren did it just purely with talent. And she never had to show her cleavage or
she was never marketed in that way. Right? She never chose
talk about racy things. She just was an expressive, extraordinarily talented human. You know what I mean? So
it's funny.
I don't know. Sometimes I stand. I don't love. Like I'll be completely transparent. I think the song WAP. What is it? WAP.
Yeah.
WAP. I think it's. I've heard it. I've heard it a million. I've heard it. What is it? Douche or douche?
Whoosh.
Use both them shits. No, listen. Real quick. I've heard that song a million times. I know it is a massive hit. I'm not mad that it's a hit, but I think the song's a load of shit. Like, it's just, people like women talking about their genitals, and like, that's okay. Like, I know a lot of people love it, and like, people go nuts for that song, and I'm not mad, but I personally think it's a shitty song. I don't see what it is about it where I'm like, anything in it is fire. Like, I don't know, like, what is it about that song besides the fact that they're talking about their
well, there's some great
how
dick
comfortable
songs.
they are with.
Dude, there's great dick songs, and this goes that's in the same genre, man. Like my dick,
dick. Yeah, but I put it on that level.
That's a great.
I put it on that level. It's like good for a laugh, but like as song structure and MCing, I'm like, I don't know. It's just not for me. Right. It's not for me. I don't fuck with it.
Society needed a new dick song, and here it is.
Sorry.
I said society needed a new dick song, and there it is. Satisfies the requirement.
I hope the listeners don't think I'm a douche for saying it or a douche, but I just think that just my whole thing is music first, controversy way down.
Yeah.
Or like shock value doesn't matter to me. Like I just want to hear good music. You know what I mean? I don't look at that song as good music. Lauren and a bunch of the other people that we mentioned, they are on the list because of the good music they made rather than the sexual comfort or whatever those sexual vibes.
I agree,
I'm not judging the sexual vibes. I'm not saying it shouldn't be there. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm saying there's a difference.
But that's not what you listen to music for, right?
I'll wrap it up with this with this category is I was never, and I'm pretty sure you realize I was never trying to compare the two at all. I was just giving my list of female 100%. Season and going off on why Trina was what she was. With Trina though, like or with that. With this, what we're talking about, I more so meant, for example, like what Trina did is like it just opened the door to a bunch of people who like before that era didn't realize that they could talk about something. Like people, like so many people 100%. Are like, oh wait, I could rap about that. Like I've been wanting to rap about this, and like Ben, it's not for you, but it's for but those people who like WAP would appeal to probably aren't gonna love Ready or Not. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing.
Well, I don't think there's any reason why they wouldn't. I think that it's to your point, Dion, it's very important, right? There's nothing illegitimate about it. There's nothing, it's not cheating. Yeah. It's not like, well, that type of music is wrong. Like, I'm not standing in judgment of it at all. It belongs here and it should stay here. I was going to actually, this thought crossed my mind a lot. It wasn't with necessarily, I was going to name names, but like, the thought of like Lauren is a queen of this shit just because it was like what we admire about her is simply just her talent and lyricism. Yeah. You know what I mean?
She never had to do any of that shit. In fact,
never had to do it.
The only time I ever saw her like even in anything relatively sort of skimpy was the Fugees video, the wardrobe choice. But I mean, it's very obvious what that was. That was just the wardrobe.
Right, that was Paus's
music
choice.
Video,
right.
Just trying to look like Wyclef. Lauren Hill is a very attractive young lady, and they had she was in a music video. and they wanted to put her in wardrobe. Like that was his music video. But it's very obvious that wasn't what her choice would have been to wear that day. You know, but that's the only time I've ever seen her anything like that. Aside from that, Ben, you're right. Like she never really felt the need to like go there. You know what I mean? Like why? Like my voice and my MCing skills are enough to and just to where I am.
Right, and just to wrap that up, and we don't have to stay on it any longer, but I'm just like, so like to that point, right? And I always, this is men and women, right? Like, so like my favorite artists are people who, like, if you never saw their face and they never were on MTV, would I still like to listen to the music? You know what I mean? I think MTV, while it brought music into so many homes in the 90s and in the 80s, it also added this idea that you have to be stunningly gorgeous to be famous. Where, you know, like I just feel like if you close your eyes and you never saw these people, does the music still inspire you? You know what I mean? And it's such an important thing, and why I hold Lauren in such high regard. The same reason why I hold Doom, Royce, all the people I like, because it's just not about image for them.
Yo, Benny,
image means shit to me.
I know you wanted to move off of this topic, but I think this is a very important topic. I think that in my mind, this is what this project is about. It's about music and meaning of lyrics, right? It's about that as an art form, and in a sense, especially in those early times of MTV coming out, everybody's watching TV for just for the visuals. Essentially, you could watch MTV and be entertained with the thing on mute. In that sense, it's totally superficial and tangent, and like basically unrelated to the core of what we're talking about, the music video aspect of it, right? Except for Bushman by Kool Keith. I think those two things are related, and we'll talk about that. But this, I think, is not.
Every listener, just please Google Bushman right now. Bushman. Just go to YouTube. Go to YouTube and Bushman. Watch Bushman right now. I'm sorry, Bushman. Fugees, we're talking about you, but please go watch Bushman. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Gary.
Oh, that was it. Look, if I could add to that, I would say, meanwhile, the government brings Star Wars from Glocks to Glockas. COP has an APB out on Chewbacca. All right? From the Beast. Yeah. That was incredible. Yep. What? Yep. That really hit the spot. That was a Wyclef line.
Yeah, the song "The Beast" is another one that it's a standout.
It's a beast of a song, yeah.
That's another one that I'm not entirely certain if it's this. I think this song and a few others, they do a very clever thing in the production, right? Obviously, it's a dance hall. It's like a slowed down dance hall vibe. You know what I mean? It's not like a fast. It's not like the 90s dance hall that we're used to, but it's got a Caribbean vibe to it. That song. Mm-hmm. I love hip hop that uses a reggae beat. I don't know if you guys ever like think about that when you're listening, but a reggae beat. Sure. So standard boom bap is boom. It's the snare and the kick, or the snare hits on the 4, so it's doom doom cha doom doom cha doom. Mm-hmm. But reggae it hits on the 3. Doom doom. Wait. I have to. If you listen to a reggae song compared to a boom bap song, the snare hits on the 3rd beat rather than the 4th beat. I can't do it right now in my head, but the vibe, even if it's subtle, even if the programming is so similar in those drum beats, the vibe instantaneously changes whether you know it or not. Mm-hmm. And the Fugees did that on a few of these songs, and I think The Beast is one of them, where the snare is hitting in the 3, not the 4. And that is, in itself, just switches up the vibe enough. One of my favorite bands outside of hip-hop is God Street Wine, and they do that all the time. They throw a reggae beat onto a song that isn't necessarily a reggae song. And what it does is just, it makes your ears listen in a different way, whether you know it or not. The vibe has changed. And that reggae beat is not an American thing. It like becomes world music, or it becomes bigger than you're listening to hip hop. You're listening to hip hop, but it has this reggae thing that you can't put your finger on. But it's the drums.
And all of that in the background of this song in particular, like the content of the song is extremely deep. Like it's about the cops' relationship with black people in the fucking in the hood, and like so like you got this like sort of this reggae vibe to like the music and everything like that. It is dark, but it has that kind of like but yeah. Meanwhile, like Lauren coming in with her intro, conflicts with nightsticks, illegal sales district, handpicked lunatics keep politicians rich. Heretics push narcotics amidst its risks and fricks. Cool clicks throw bricks, but seldom hit targets.
Fire.
Yo. But again, with the background of like, oh yeah, this is like, I mean, again, not saying that it sounds like a lighthearted kind of song, but then we listen to the lyrics like, oh shit, what? And then again, that's the same, yeah,
right. Like underneath those powerful, deep, important lyrics, the music is moving. It's almost like a circular, like it's got a circular, swaying movement underneath. So it's like if you're watching us on video, you know, this is the vibe. If you're not, I'm sorry, you're just gonna have to imagine what I'm doing. But you know what I mean? It's just like it's moving, circular. You know what I mean? It's got this like, you know, almost like everyone in a circle, just I don't know. It has that vibe of just like bouncing, and it has this rotation in its sound. Mm-hmm. Very Caribbean. Underneath the hip hop, it's dope. I love it when producers think outside the box. You know, it's not just about the lyrics; it's about the tapestry that you're putting underneath. Exactly. That really separates the good from the best. You know.
I gotta say, Benny, that's a level of subtlety that will have escaped me forever and ever and ever had you not just brought it up. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
Thanks. Thanks, Gary.
Gary, you mentioned earlier you didn't realize that Rod Digga was on this album. I very much did. I vividly remember her being on Cowboys, which is one of the best songs on this album. I mean, the production of this, the posse cutness of it, like it's one of the best posse cuts ever. I didn't realize Rod Digga was not only in Flipmode Squad, she actually was part of the Outsiders. I didn't realize that. So that's why. So it's her, Young Z, and Pace One with and the Outsiders part. And then Fugees, and then John Forte has basically always kind of been considered a fourth Fuji. So, and funny enough, he has his own verse. And I say that about him having his own verse because if you notice this song, everyone shares verses with a counterpart, which is not something I've heard since the end of Scenario. And they only did it once in Scenario. The last Q-Tip versus Scenario, the last like he trades the last 4 bars each with Busta. So it's like Q-Tip 4 bars, Busta 4 bars, Q-Tip 4, and then Busta's main verse, right?
That's very, you know who does that a lot is the Locks. Styles and Jada just have this ability to like bounce off each other so well. I love that shit. Yeah, man.
It's and this song is a perfect example of that. Like, just give it a love listen. If you didn't realize that's what was happening as you were listening, give it another listen after this. You'll see. But also another thing that why did we hate on Rod Digga so much when we were younger? She's actually pretty dope.
Was
pretty fucking dope.
You know why we hated on her? Because we were men in the 90s, and like men are fucked up, and like there was like such misogyny that was like just learned and like passed down, and like it was because she was a woman. Like how fucked up is that? We were just dipshit kids who like liked Busta Rhymes, but like we're like, oh,
who's this chick?
Fast forward, Rod Digga, like why? She's dope.
She's I don't know, man. I think I disagree. I think that it was part that, but also the verses, the Rod Digga verses on those Busta Rhymes and Flipmode Squad albums, I didn't love them. I didn't. Okay. I mean, maybe listening to them again later on, it's like, okay, now that I have more of an ear, but like the superficial listening I did then, it didn't allow me to sink in to an extent where I liked it, right? And the ones that did stand out to me that I didn't like were like kind of jarring in how much I didn't like them.
Well, like, I think it took us growing up.
Want to flex, she ass. I throw you out like you plexiglass. I'm like, oh, all right. You know, that's cool.
All right, so Gary, that's fair. I think with me, and if you guys remember, like I'm not absolving myself. Like I was very much with the Rod Digga hate too. But I think that I always had a little bit more of respect for her because I remember this verse, and I remember being confused at the time. Because remember, this came out in '96. It's around the time we were listening to Busta Rhymes and when we would have been like sort of hating on her. But I always remember this verse, and I remember being confused. I'm like, wait, this is the same Rod Digga that's in flip mode. Like this chick's good. What the hell? By the way, I also found out, right? You know what Rod Digga's real name is?
No, it's Rashida.
Rashida.
Yep. Oh wow.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay.
Are you saying because one of our friends hated on her the most?
Yeah, of course.
With a similar name.
Shout out to Rashid.
Oh man. I gotta reach out to him. We gotta get him on the show.
That'd be fucking dope. That'd be dope.
I'm scared.
But yeah, no. Again, going back. Also, but I didn't realize this either. Wyclef's verse. was not very well taken by Tupac. Because if you really listen to it, it sounds like he claims that it really wasn't a West Coast dig, but it sounds like a West Coast dig. Again, I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but these, once you're done, either listen to the verse again or read the lyrics, and you'll see it's like, oh wait, okay, yeah, I can see why Tupac
did
this.
Dude, in '96, right? Unless you were saying like Q-Tip had that whole song in '96, you're saying leave me the fuck out of this shit, keep it moving. But unless you were doing that, you were throwing subliminals. You could go back and listen to these songs. There were so many, like digs. Just even if you weren't saying the West was fucked up, you were saying the East is better. There was this pride. Yeah. There was this coastal, putting the flag down, like where our coast is better. It happened throughout so much of hip hop at that point. Can I shift the thing that I thought about so much when bumping this album lately is just like how dope of a time for music 1996 was. Like it was lost on us because we were in 5th grade and 6th grade, and like we were still kids, and like we knew what we knew, and we hated what we hated, or I hated what I hated. I could only speak for myself, but when you just look back at like what albums came out in 96, like, man, bring me back to 1996, please, musically at least. You know what I mean? Muddy Waters by Redman, Nas's second album, It Was Written, Tribe Called Quest, Beats, Rhymes, and Life, Fugees, The Score, Busta Rhymes' first album, The Coming, right? Didn't that come out in 96? I always forget.
95.
I thought it was 95. Yeah,
fuck my life. 95. I'm sorry about that.
Whatever. I mean,
it was still bumping.
Same spot in history.
Yeah, it was still bumping. Yeah. What else in 96? Help me out, Day. I'm sure you have some shit.
Oh, shit.
I'm sorry.
A lot
of shit. Oh, fucking Ghostface's debut album, Iron Man.
Iron Man was 96?
Yeah. There's so much that I'm forgetting.
AT Aliens.
Bro, like and like I started to think about why was this era so dope. It was right before the Jiggy era. It was right before the ultra commercialization and like watered down hip hop that occurred in 98. And that the Jiggy era was a result of beef, right? People wanted to just have lighthearted party shit, but like 96, it was still fashionable to be a dope MC, right? It also was very unfashionable to make a song that sounded like anybody else's song. So what you had, yes, you had similar vibes with beats, but every MC was their own personality still, right? You didn't hear Lauren spitting a pattern that Q-Tip was spitting. You didn't hear Redman spitting a pattern that Nas was spitting, right? It was these top tier lyricists, and they were all entirely unique, right? Now you have a few standouts that are unique, right? You still have Kendrick, right? You still have J. Cole. You still have, on the less commercial but still popular, like Tyler. And you still have these dope artists. But the vast majority, if you put on Hot 97 right now, they're all using the same flow patterns.
Mm-hmm.
They're all literally going, well, listen to me spit the exact same way. And that in itself, if the music's just not going to age well. You know what I mean? No. 96 music aged so well.
Do you want to? Let's just spend 30 seconds. I have a list of albums that came out in '96.
Hit me with it.
You're gonna fucking freak. First of all, Ben, me and Gary were wrong. You were actually right. Coming did come out in '96.
Look at that.
Came out my birthday.
Shit.
Came out my birthday, '96. Nice. Are you ready for this? You ready for this shit? All right. The Score, Fugees. All Eyes on Me, Tupac.
Oh my God.
AT Aliens. Reasonable Doubt.
Oh my God.
It Was Written. The Coming. Stakes Is High. Philadelphia Half-Life. Hardcore by Lil' Kim. Muddy Waters. Hold on. Dr. Octagon. Or Dr. Octagonologist. Sorry. Hold on. There's more. I said Muddy Waters, right? Mm-hmm. Il Nana by Foxy. Legal Drug Money. Lost Boys. I mean, there's others, but like, yeah, like
possibly there's a reason why we're
arguably the best year in
project
hip-hop
in 2021.
Right.
There's a reason why we're having this project now because we needed time to digest all that. That's
man.
That's a lot
seriously.
Of music.
Dude, arguably,
did you hear all that shit?
Arguably, I would say like I think the
Iron Man. Oh, you said Iron Man. Sorry, you said Iron Man. Yeah.
I think the greatest time for hip hop, if you want to do a stretch of years, would be like 93 to 97. That's like
98. I would say 98.
97, 98, but 98 you start having Will Smith and like jiggy shit that I don't fuck with.
Yeah, but you still ended with some good shit.
Yes, anyway. Of course. But so I'm just saying in terms of like output, but I might argue that 96 was the greatest year in hip hop ever, just because of all of the shit
albums we just
mentioned.
listed.
Like, like obviously. So my favorite Wu album came out the next year. Some of my favorite album ever came out the year before in Liquid Swords. But I'm just saying, 96, man, it was such a special time for hip hop, and hip hop had yet to become watered down, right? 98, you get the beginnings of watering it down, and then by the mid 2000s, it was harder to find top tier lyricism and artistry in popular hip hop, at least. So
we said we were gonna focus on tabloid shit, but I think I mentioned earlier that I think I know what happened to Lauryn Hill in the interim, and I think the story of Lauryn Hill is the story of Luke Skywalker after the fall of the Empire. I think she's hiding on a planet somewhere, meditating. And when the time comes, she will reappear in the Force. That's right.
I mean, Ben, we technically saw her live.
Saw her. No, yeah, we saw Lauryn Hill at Rock the Bells, and
it wasn't very good.
It wasn't great. But I think that she was maybe a little past her prime, or maybe just having a bad day. I don't remember.
I think it was a bad day because I remember first of all, I remember that specific day got horrible. It wasn't just us. She got horrible reviews for she ended the Rock the Bells night stage set. I think like within like a few weeks she did another show. I really think it was just a bad day. I think it was a bad day.
Could have been a bad day. It was like over 100 degrees that day. It was. Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to perform that day. That was the same year we saw Jedi Mind Tricks, Ill Bill, Rock Marciano. Was that the Slaughterhouse year too, or was that the next year? It was a dope festival.
Yeah, because I actually don't remember now. They kind of blended.
Snoop, Nas. It was crazy.
Nas ended one year, Snoop ended the other year. So I forget which was which, but yeah, it was worth it. I thought fucking worth it.
It was fun time. A lot of Monster Energy drinks and dehydration. Sunday. It was dope. Talk to me. Where should we go from here? I'm sorry, Dion. Take the reins.
We can start to wind down a little bit. I mean, I there's so much more. Like I have my notes. I have like 10 pages and 11 pages of notes here, and we honestly haven't even scratched the surface of this stuff. But I think we get into a place where we can start to wrap up. I mentioned before the Mask being one of my favorite songs. I have a funny memory about that. Gary, remember when we did or Ben too. Remember when we did my God, Boogie Down Productions, and KRS told the story about how not a story, but just in general, like how you be walking down the street in New York and someone would be like, "Yo, spit a rhyme." It was on Hip Hop Evolution. So I remember that basically happened to me when I was on a school bus in like 96, and some kid was basically like, "Yo, spit a rhyme," and I didn't know what to do. So so the Mask, I love the Mask. So I just like instinctually just recited Wyclef's verse from the Mask. The kid was mad impressed.
Did he know?
No, he had no idea how he thought that some 11-year-old kid was talking about having a job at Burger King flipping burgers and then having building missiles underground for World War III. Like how he thought some 12-year-old kid thought of that, I don't know, but like he was impressed. But
tell me he was bagging my fries, getting high on company time.
Hell no, sorry. Yeah, that song is fucking that song is dope, man. That what it represents is cool too. It's like each one of them having to wear like like metaphorically wear a mask in order to like survive. Right. Lauren herself like having being a woman, and basically hers was interesting because like she's talking to a guy that she used to be friends with. She ran into him later on, and instead of like catching up like normal friends would do, he was trying to be creepy the whole time. But she just kind of kept trying to keep the conversation to what like normal conversation until his like something happened at the end, and she just kind of lost her shit. Whatever, just a small example, but like just another.
It's good storytelling. Puts you right there.
It's great storytelling, exactly. Gary, exactly, puts you right there. So that's why I love that one so much.
Dion, hold on. Can we got to stop and talk about this school bus situation, okay? So here's a hypothetical scenario for you, Ben.
So what?
Okay.
So what?
Here's a hypothetical scenario for you, Ben. All right. So you're Wyclef in 1998 or whatever, and you see that there's a 6th grade boy, all right, who has just recited one of your lyrics to another kid on the school bus. What do you say to him? You're so proud, right, that somebody knows your work so well, and this cute little boy recited this fucking thing with the Guyana flag in beads around his neck.
No.
What do you say?
Hell no, sorry. Wrong MC.
This is what I'm saying. This is what if I was Wyclef, I'd say biting motherfucker.
Yep. And he'd be absolutely right. He'd be absolutely
shut your mouth while you're talking.
Shut it down. The fact that he'd be like, shut it down. Shut it down.
No. I'm just kidding. I would be honored. I think that's dope.
Yeah, you would be honored, but what if you were Wyclef? Put yourself in Wyclef's shoes. What would you say to Dion? What are the words?
Good looking out. Thanks for showing love. And, good shit. Honestly, that's what I would do. Like, I think...
Dude, it would be in the best case scenario.
If it's a 6th grader, fuck yeah, like that's dope. Yeah. But if it's like an MC, like someone trying to get on, someone in an actual battle, spitting other people's bars,
it's a different story.
Then different story.
Oh yeah, but this is a different context, man. I mean, he has to, this is evidence of the penetration of your music to kids that you want listening to it and influenced 100%. By it, right? You know what he would say? And I think, in my opinion, I don't know what Wyclef, but from what I know of Wyclef, I think he would tell Dion, "Here, kid, hold this box." And that's it. And he would walk
that's
away.
What you would do as Gary.
That's such a Gary move.
I think that's what Wyclef would have done at the time. Maybe not now, but at the time.
Okay, Gary.
I'm into it.
All right.
I'm into it.
We'll take it. We'll box
what
it.
I want to know is what's in the box, but that's another story for another day.
He will give you the look. You know what I'm saying? Like the Wyclef. I am so tuned into God's frequency. I'm still inspired, making music in 1998 look. He will give you that look, and he would say he would put the box in your hands, and he would say, "Here, kid, hold this box," and he would walk away.
Oh, Gary!
I think Gary put the exclamation point on this episode. Let's wrap it up.
So Ben, why don't you give us your thoughts? I'll give mine,
Gary's
and then
pick, right?
It's Gary's pick, exactly.
Gary, I hope you have a pick ready, man.
Oh yeah, of course.
Of course he does.
Okay. I remember one time I just pulled one out of my ass because I forgot it was my pick. Okay. This album is, by and large, a perfect album. And when we talked about it in the past, by perfect album, what I mean is something you could play from start to finish. Not one song is skippable. Not one lull in the progression. There is a shared, singular vibe, even though all the songs are different. The beats are dope. It's got one of the dopest lyricists and vocalists of all time on it. Wyclef is dope. Praz is all right. I got no problems with him. That's why I'm not going to call it a masterpiece. There's a difference between a perfect album and a masterpiece, but I can't call it a masterpiece because it has some bars that are kind of like throwaway bars, but it's so fucking good. It is so sad that the Fugees were like a gas explosion, like you guys said. Just they hit the world with this album like a comet and then disappeared. It's very sad. That's what I say to myself a lot. Like, how the fuck did they make this album and then never do it again? But this album just brings me back to the greatest time in hip hop, and it brings me back to 5th grade, and it brings me back to hanging out with you guys in 6th and 7th grade, and it's one of the best ever. I fucking love it, and I'm so glad we had time to talk about it.
And yeah, same sentiment. It's just, for me, it's like a full circle, right? Like as I mentioned in the beginning, it was basically the first CD I ever owned, and you know, turned out to not only be one of my favorite albums, but I'm now talking about it on my own podcast. Like, who the fuck would have thought, you know? But yeah, it's doing this, like, you know, again, as I feel like I'm a broken record every week, but in a good way, just that it's opened my eyes to things that I didn't realize before. I thought I knew the album, but there's things that I learned, you know, along the way, and the journey had been fun. I'll obviously continue to listen to it. I'm gonna give Blended on Reality a good listen now after this, knowing that it's not gonna be probably as you know, gonna be different, maybe not as good, but it's still gonna have some level of talent, because it is the Fugees. And I want to give Miseducation Lauryn Hill a little bit more of a listen too.
So
great album. So my sister had it growing up. I never you know, I never like I don't think I've ever actually listened to it end to end. I listened to like chunks. I guarantee I've heard the entire album collectively. But yeah, I want to sort of give it the respect it's due. And yeah, one of my biggest takeaways is just reaffirming that Lauryn Hill is you know, not only one of the dopest female MCs of all time, she's one of the dopest MCs of all time. Like, it's very evident here. I mean, some of the bars that I even spit as an example here, just like even hearing myself say it again, I'm like, wait, what? Like, that's unbelievable. How did you come up with that? So yeah, so again, 5 out of 5. All the stuff came out in the like Ben said, one of the greatest years, if not the greatest years in hip hop. And yeah, it's got its solid sort of place in hip hop history and music history. So yeah, Fugees the score, great, one of my favorites, one of the best.
Gary, take us out, man.
Yeah, I guess one song we didn't talk about from this album is Mr. at the end, which is a weird, different kind of song that almost felt like an addendum, but it just showed how kind of tapped into an interesting frequency Wyclef was at the time. It's a crazy song where he's singing in a falsetto voice about what he says to people asking him for money on the street because they're probably on drugs, and it's hilarious. I mean, it's like, it's sad. It's about a sad subject, but it's so funny because he just he says, Mister, can I have $5 so I could get something to eat? Very, you know, I mean, it's an affecting thing to be asked. And he goes, hell no, motherfucker, you can't get no money from me because every time I give you $1. It's so just it's really powerful and unexpected. I was blown away by that. So anyway, Wyclef as well is amongst the gods of music in my mind after digging into this album. So great way to spend the last couple of weeks kind of tuning into something. Great suggestion, guys. I guess for next week, I would love for us to listen to an album also from this period, staying in the sweet spot. But I recommend we do Muddy Waters by Redman.
Oh, hell yeah. Interesting.
Widely thought about as one of Redman's best albums, if not his best album. Yeah. And I have not spent any time with it. So I'm I hope you guys enjoy it.
Gary, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. It's so good. I can't wait. Thank you. Thank you for picking that. Okay. Quick PS. I think it speaks to how good this album is, the score, that we didn't even talk about the 2 biggest hits on the album. That's true. Incredible. We didn't talk about Killing Me Softly. We didn't talk about Fugees, and we didn't talk about No Woman, No Cry. So like, there's so much to unpack on this album that it would require 8 hours, and we're not going to do that. But that just speaks to the level of incredible art that was on this album that we didn't even get to the biggest hits. So thank you, guys. We want to thank our man Red Walrus. Thank you, Fred, for hooking up dope beats. Check him out on Bandcamp. You could download his music and you'd be supporting an excellent artist. We want to thank our producer, Nate. Without you, it would be nothing. Check our website out, guys. theraplizards.com. You can find us on Insta. The Rap Lizard, what is it? At the Rap Lizards? Sorry.
Yeah. At the Rap Lizards on Instagram. At the Rap Lizards
on Facebook now, right?
on Twitter. And of course we got a YouTube channel too.
Yes.
You think it's possible that Wyclef and Fred are related?
No.
Okay.
Anything's possible. Anything is possible.
Guys, I want to thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We love you. We'll see you next time. Go listen to Muddy Waters. Go listen to Redman.
Hell yeah.
Peace.
Peace, guys.
Peace.